What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Caffeinate today for June the 12th of 2019. My name, as I said, is Samuel Adams, and welcome to today's show. Of course, we have a lot of news to break down, and for those that are brand new to the program, this is normally a daily gaming news podcast hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, live on twitch.tv/Samuel Adams, then taken down and put up on youtube.com/Samuel Adams Media and podcast services around the world. But this week has been a bit of a different schedule. Of course, we are in the thick of E3, and over the past weekend, we had a ton of conferences that showed off everything from Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk 2077 to some Link's Awakening footage, and even a teaser for the sequel to Breath of the Wild. But I have chosen to go ahead and move on with life and talk about new gaming news, because I have recaps of all of the biggest press conferences up right now on youtube.com/Samuel Adams Media. If you did want to find out the news and my thoughts on how the conferences went, I would highly encourage you to at least check out the Nintendo episode, because man, I did enjoy making that one. But some really good content up right now on the channel if you do want to see my thoughts on the E3 shows. However, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, the Atari VCS is still a thing, it's still happening, and it's going to cost you 250 bones if you want the basic model here in the US. We will talk more about the Atari VCS pre-orders, what the various editions of it are, etc., etc. But if you want another console, as if you don't have enough already, Konami has announced the TurboGrafx 16 Mini and 6 of the games that will come preloaded onto it. E3 news is still a-flowing because Nintendo threatens a leaker with legal action. Of course, this was before their Direct actually came out, so it's not exactly that big of a deal anymore, but still, it's something I do want to give my 2 cents on. Microsoft is ending the Xbox One backwards compatibility program, with its efforts are going to next gen. There is no downside to Game Pass, according to Playground Games. We'll talk about what the Forza Horizon studio says about the Xbox subscription service and what it meant for Forza Horizon 4. Twitch has banned Dr. Disrespect. The Epic Game Store will give away a free game for the rest of 2019 every single week. That is a lot of games. And of course, we have our fun story for the end of the show. Kids won't stop calling Keanu Reeves Fortnite guy to his face. That's funny. I wish he would now be called Cyberpunk 2077 guy, but that's just me. However, that is the lineup for today's show. And again, as always, I do hope you enjoy the show. And if you're new, welcome on in, and I hope you enjoy what you find. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top stories. That's a green screen for those video viewers there. Oh no, we do have a bit of a technical issue. Give me just one moment. The power of editing. Good to go. Look at that. Starting off with the Atari VCS going on sale on the US storefront, starting at $250 if you are interested in picking up Atari's big comeback. Hypothetical comeback, I would say. Pre-sales have begun for Atari's upcoming new console, the Atari VCS, with prices on different versions running from $250 up to $390. The Atari VCS is planned for a March 2020 launch and can be pre-ordered in the US through the official website, GameStop, or Walmart. There are 2 different models, plus a third bundle with multiple colors available. A 4GB model, this is RAM of course, not actual, storage capability, will cost $250, while an 8GB model is $280. Each retailer has its own exclusive color of a bundled 8GB edition of the console that includes a classic joystick controller and a modern controller. The bundles cost $389.99, with individual classic joysticks and modern controllers available for $49.99 and $59.99 respectively. The Atari VCS purportedly features an AMD Ryzen processor that can handle 4K HDR streaming and will allow users to play new games, classic and remastered Atari titles, and stream multimedia. Every console will ship with the Atari Vault, which includes over 100 Atari home and arcade classic titles. So far, no other games have been announced for the system, but more details on games and other software, as well as distribution outside the US, are expected later this year. Again, let's reiterate, no games have been announced for the Atari VCS. You just have the confirmation of the Atari Vault and pretty much all these classic Atari games, and nothing else at the moment. Which is what brings me to the point that I want to make. The console itself looks very interesting. From an aesthetic point of view, of course, many of the images that you've seen of the Atari VCS likely feature the wood paneling on many classic Atari products, such as the Atari 2600. But with the Atari VCS, this is not going to go well if there aren't games behind the console itself. That's what's actually propelling Google Stadia to at least maintain some form of interest in the community, because whenever you're thinking about Stadia, which of course is Google's big new gaming project that's essentially cloud streaming combined with hardcore gaming, hypothetically if it works correctly, you have games that are actually behind this service already. Anybody that gets the Founders Edition gets everything in Destiny 2, Shadowkeep. It's going to be a very big deal on launch, but going forward, you see a lot of these big publishers and developers actually backing Google Stadia through putting their work on Google Stadia. Atari VCS doesn't seem to have that. Also, not a cloud streaming service. It's not futuristic. It's not necessarily cutting edge. It is just simply there. Now, $250, you might say, what kind of power could this machine possibly have? And I would go ahead and wager, not too much. Not too much power, if I had to guess. So we will see how things go for the Atari VCS. I am not going to, put any kind of bets on this one. I would not be in this one's corner on the boxing ring, so to speak. But if you are a hardcore fan of Atari, this very well could be the best purchase you make, because again, Atari is putting everything they've got into the VCS, and it wouldn't surprise me to see a lot of funding being funneled into this actual piece of hardware from, classic Atari IP, etc., etc. So you could be getting some pretty good experiences if you are a fan of Atari, but outside of that, I just don't see the value in the Atari VCS. But again, pre-orders are up now. It is actually happening, and to those that are original backers of the Indiegogo project, hey, at least it is actually coming into fruition, because I would estimate this might be the end of Atari if they didn't actually put this out, which is pretty much, I think, the stance they are taking as well. I don't think this is actually something that they're that passionate about anymore, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, moving on to the next story of the day, Konami has announced the TurboGrafx 16 Mini and 6 of the games it will feature, just in case you didn't have enough miniature replicas of consoles that run a few of the games that were famous on these consoles. The mini retro console trend continues with the TurboGrafx 16 Mini. The glut of mini consoles, probably best realized so far by the great SNES Classic Mini, continues with the TurboGrafx 16 announced today by Konami. Konami owns the rights to this thing, according to Kotaku, because they absorbed Hudson back in 2012, acquiring their assets, including the console, in the process. The reveal trailer shown on a special Konami stream is below, and of course, that is what you get. We will watch that in just a moment. 6 games have been announced so far, although a trailer promises far more. R-Type, New Adventure Island, Ninja Spirit, Ys Book 1 and 2, Alien Crush, and Dungeon Explorer have been announced so far. And of course, some of these are highly regarded. The Japanese version, meanwhile, the PC Engine Mini, has a different lineup. Bonk's Adventure, Dracula 10, Castlevania Rondo of Blood, as it is known elsewhere. The Kung Fu, known as China Warrior locally, Ys 1 and 2, Superstar Soldier, Dungeon Explorer as well. We wouldn't be surprised to see Bonk's Adventure making its way into the Western version, and Rondo of Blood is a cool choice, but China Warrior is an odd choice, according to the guys at VG247. And of course, more updates will come as we find more info out about what exactly they are bringing to the table with the TurboGrafx 16 Mini. But this is one of those cool little projects, for some reason, I'm a little bit excited about this. I never played a TurboGrafx 16 Mini. I have never played a TurboGrafx 16 Mini in my entire life. All of these games that they listed off, I've never played any of these, and I have little to no interest in the console itself. I want to make that very clear. But the fact that it exists, the fact that you have this piece of hardware actually coming into fruition and becoming a physical entity in the world, that, I don't know why I like that. I love gaming history. I like the past, where you see where we have come over the course of the past 30 plus years. But to see the TurboGrafx 16 Mini getting, a bit of a breath of fresh air, if you will, or at least the TurboGrafx 16 coming back, that's just exciting to me. And I can't really put why. I was going to say I can't really finger why, but that was a weird way to say that. But if you do want the TurboGrafx 16 Mini, more details are going to be coming out over the next few months. But again, if you want to get in on the various versions, there are different versions depending on where you are in the world. But exciting times for those that are collectors, for those that like retro gaming, for those that love miniature consoles, because man, there are a lot of them out there. However, let's talk about E3 some more because, again, I have been pumping out tons of content about E3 over the past few days on the YouTube channel. However, I didn't talk about any kind of leaks because apparently Nintendo doesn't want that. Now, I want to make it very clear, I had no leaks to talk about. I don't have inside sources, but some people do, and they've been told to not say a word because Nintendo threatens a leaker with legal action. And it was a pretty good move, I would say. So let's go ahead and go back to the original story, which I believe begins right here. It wouldn't truly be E3 if a number of surprises didn't leak in advance, but even so, this year has been particularly leaky. Nearly all of this weekend's biggest announcements were spoiled early, from Ninja Theory's new game, Bleeding Edge, to Elden Ring, from Software's rumored collaboration with Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin. Nintendo's own E3 press conference is still to come, at least it was at the time of making this article, and it appears the company is taking measures to ensure none of its scripts spill out ahead of time, as it has reportedly threatened legal action against a well-known leaker. Twitter user Sabi, who has accurately leaked details from Microsoft and Bethesda's press conferences before each one aired, including Keanu Reeves' appearance in Cyberpunk 2077 and Xbox Scarlet's technical specifications, revealed they had received a cease and desist letter from a lawyer representing Nintendo, and this is according to Eurogamer. Sabi has since said they will not leak anything from the Nintendo Direct, although they'll assert they continue leaking non-Nintendo secrets. Nintendo's E3 Direct is scheduled for today. Back to the top with the update. We got some big news at the Nintendo press conference. Now pause. If you want the biggest news, I've got a video up right now recapping everything in less than 10 minutes if you do want to check it out. But moving on. Pleasantly enough, for those interested in a surprise, the Nintendo Direct was capped off with a major reveal. Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, or whatever the sequel will be called, was confirmed as in development. Some of the other reveals confirmed things that had been rumored previously, such as The Witcher 3 for Nintendo Switch, but we also learned of 2 new Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC characters, including Banjo-Kazooie. Read on for a look at what Nintendo did to ensure it had some surprises in store for the presentation, which brings us back to the beginning of the article. So essentially, they told this guy to stop because he very well could have ruined one of the best surprises of E3 2019, and I want to talk about why this is so important and why this is so significant. Alright, so at the beginning of E3, a ton of leaks were coming out. Over the past week of Caffeinate episodes, that's all we had. Just a ton of E3 leaks. And to be fair, I put a poll out on Twitter, as I said in a previous episode of Caffeinate, asking, hey, do you like leaks or do you like surprises? The overwhelming majority of people that replied liked the surprises that come out of E3. And I think there's a lot of value in having that surprise element within the shows, because whenever you go into something completely and totally oblivious as to what to expect, whenever the announcement is significant, whenever the announcement is genuinely exciting, the raw emotion, the excitement you actually get from that experience is unlike anything else that you would get from a leak or something that kind of clues you in as to what to actually expect. For instance, within the Nintendo presentation, the Breath of the Wild sequel reveal. I never in my life would have thought that would be coming, number one, this soon, number two, coming at all. That is an amazing idea, and it's something that I feel like we should have known was coming, but at the same time, I'm so glad that I didn't, because watching the Nintendo Direct was unlike, it got me excited. And that's not what happened after I saw leaks and then saw the official reveals of what was actually leaked. Even with The Witcher 3 on the Nintendo Switch, that would have been so much more impactful if I had never had any kind of clue that it was happening in the first place, but we had all kind of seen the leaks, seen the hints, etc., and it didn't have the same impact. It didn't have the same emotional response. But whenever you have something that is genuinely a surprise, that changes the game. And so it makes sense that Nintendo actually hired a lawyer and was threatening legal action against the people leaking this information. So going forward, what should we take away from this? Leaks are not going away. They will always be a part of the gaming industry, and they will always be a part of E3. That's just the nature of the beast. That's how it works. At the same time, I wish that people would limit them. I wish that there would be some kind of rein put in and pulled on this, because we really do need more surprises in life, I think. And especially in the gaming industry, where we can get so jaded and we can get so used to the announcements that we get. It would be amazing to see somebody step in and say, hey, let's just not leak things anymore, because we all need a little bit of excitement. A little bit of a surprise wouldn't hurt from time to time. But again, that won't happen, because that's not how gaming works. But I won't be leaking any new Xbox One backwards compatible titles, because there are not going to be any more. Sigh of sadness. Man, because the Xbox One backwards compatibility program has been one of the best additions to the Xbox One lineup, and I would say might have even actually saved this gen Xbox, because that's what happened. Microsoft is winding down its Xbox One backwards compatibility efforts so it can focus on bringing thousands of games from all 4 console generations to Project Scarlet. If that sentence got you excited, join the club. Project Scarlet is the codename for the company's next generation console, and Microsoft has explained it is keen to ensure players will still be able to play their favorite titles from past gens on its upcoming Xbox machine. We have now shifted our focus to help make the games you love playing on Xbox One compatible with future Xbox hardware, wrote the company in a blog post. After this week, we have no plans to add additional original Xbox or Xbox 360 titles to the catalog on Xbox One, but we were excited to continue our work on Xbox compatibility across platforms and devices, which remains a top priority. Microsoft launched the Xbox One backwards compatibility program around 4 years ago, and since then has added over 600 titles to the library based on feedback from fans. To ensure the Xbox One initiative ends with a bang, the company will release one final collection of original Xbox classics, 360 fan favorites, and Xbox One enhanced updates. And of course, you can find out what games made the cut over on the Xbox Wire, which we will look at right now, and the original Xbox classics that are coming include Armed and Dangerous, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, Sphinx, and The Cursed Something. The font is very small here. You know what? We're just going to read the actual typed out list. That makes much more sense. Armed and Dangerous, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, Splinter Cell Double Agent, and Unreal Championship 2, The Leandry Conflict. Now, that is a pretty big deal, if I did say so myself. The Xbox One X enhanced updates include Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, Banjo-Tooie, Cameo Elements of Power, Perfect Dark Zero, Viva Pinata, nice, Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise, and of course, the Xbox 360 fan favorites include a big list of really, really good games. Azura's Wrath, Battlefield 2 Modern Combat, Enchanted Arms, Enslaved Odyssey to the West, Far Cry Classic, Far Cry Instincts Predator, Infinite Unit Discovery, I can't believe I just said that, Infinite Undiscovery, Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie, Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands, Skate, Star Ocean: The Last Hope, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, Syndicate 2 Human, and Unreal Tournament 3. And of course, as a final thank you, they are actually bringing 2 Human to the Xbox compatibility program. So, as Duke of Spook says in the chat, not bad. Considering what this actually did for the Xbox One, you have to at least give a tip of the hat to the team behind the scenes that made this possible. Because again, we have to think back. At the beginning of this console generation, this wasn't considered possible. It was considered literally, something that was not achievable on any kind of hardware. To not have backwards compatibility built in whenever the console launched traditionally meant that you weren't going to be getting it at all. However, the engineers behind the scenes at Microsoft worked very diligently to actually make it happen via software and via emulation, and that's exactly what we've been getting over the past 4 years, and now we have over 600 titles that add a ton of value to the Xbox One. Again, I want to reiterate that although the Xbox One has had its shining moments, at the same time, the backwards compatibility program is a lot of the reason why so many people have gone out and bought at least an Xbox One S to play their older Xbox games, because it's done so well. And going forward, I'm excited to see what happens with Project Scarlet, because again, very exciting piece of hardware with that one. Sounds very powerful. Of course, compared to the PS5, who knows? Right now, it seems that the PS5 might be a little bit beefier, but again, so much value added whenever you're able to play older games. I think that's the biggest deal right there. But with that being said, a ton of games available via the backwards compatibility program, but no more after this week. However, ending on a very good note with a very, very big week. Of course, Game Pass is also a service that adds a ton of value to the Xbox One, and there is no downside to Game Pass, according to Playground Games. The Forza Horizon studio tells GamesIndustry.biz how the Xbox subscription service has taken its services and its series to even greater heights. Forza Horizon 3 was a big moment for Playground Games. The open-world racer sold 2.5 million units within its first 3 months, and it was one of the best-selling games of the year, on top of being one that comfortably drove the Forza franchise over the line to become a $1 billion franchise. It was by far a biggest success in the UK developer's history, emphasis firmly on was. By all our metrics, Forza Horizon 4 is exceeding Forza Horizon 3, creative director Ralph Fulton told GamesIndustry.biz on a recent visit to the company's new second studio. We are absolutely delighted about that. I think we were stunned with Forza Horizon 3's success because it almost felt like an outlier, and after it came out, people said, well, you'll never top that, which was nice of them. So there was that pressure there, even more than there had been previously, about how we would top it and continue to improve on that success. The fact that we've done it with Forza Horizon 4 is a constant thrill. We see the numbers live on our dashboards, and it's not slowing down. We have the eyeballs of a player base that we never dreamt of for a racing game. Of course, you have a lot more that goes into this, but essentially, the Game Pass pushed this thing to the next level, and the big headline that I want to read here, the big point that I want to make, is that the introduction of Game Pass and the addition of Forza Horizon 4 to Game Pass had built up this kind of expectation that people might use it as a demo-style service where you dive in, you play Forza Horizon 4 for 10 minutes, you say it's not your kind of cup of tea, and then you leave and play something else. That's not what happened. According to the team, more people are playing Forza Horizon 4 because of the fact that it is on Xbox Game Pass, and they are continuing to play it even after playing it for the first time through Game Pass. So although some people are certainly using it as a demo-style service and only sticking with the games they truly love, more people are getting hands-on access with Forza Horizon 4, finding out that they do love it, and staying for the long haul. So of course there's this giant interview with the guys over there on GamesIndustry.biz, but overwhelmingly I want to point out that Game Pass is not bad for games. In fact, I don't think there's actually a downside, and the guys at Playground seem to agree with me. Now, as Duke of Spook says in the chat, we're not seeing a Forza announcement at E3 this year. I agree, because again, traditionally, Forza has always been a yearly franchise where we get some kind of announcement, whether it be a mainline Forza Motorsport or a Forza Horizon. But good move, in my opinion, not showing off one at E3, because that gives you an additional year to really perfect the first Forza on Project Scarlet, and that's exactly what they're doing here. But additionally, do we need another Forza on the Xbox One? Because right now, again, Forza Horizon 4 doing very well, still getting updates, still getting new content, and then of course you have the other Motorsport series that is still doing very well on top of that. So if you do have that craving, if you have that desire to play some Forza, there are plenty of experiences on the Xbox One, but to take that additional year and develop a game specifically finely tuned for Project Scarlet, and maybe even make it a launch title, that's a lot of value right there. That's a lot of value. However, Dr. Disrespect has been banned because Twitch has banned him, as you would expect whenever you get a ban on Twitch, after he live streams from an E3 bathroom. Bad move on this man's part. Popular video game streamer guy Dr. Disrespect Bomb has allegedly been banned, or at least suspended, from Twitch for broadcasting live inside a public bathroom at E3. Esports analyst Rod Breslau broke the news in a tweet on Tuesday. I always think of him as @Slasher. It's weird to say his full name. Many conventions have strict anti-harassment policies for obvious reasons, but online platforms like Twitch often make decisions like this on a case-by-case basis due to the frontier nature of the changing mixed reality landscape. Doc's channel got banned. Jessica Blevins, manager and wife of well-known Twitch personality Tyler Ninja Blevins, tweeted without context, obviously saw that coming. California Penal Code Section 647J3 PC prohibits the use of a concealed camcorder, motion picture camera, or photographic camera of any type to secretly videotape, film, photograph, or record by electronic means another identifiable person who may be in a state of full or partial undress for the purpose of viewing the body of or the undergarments worn by that other person without the consent or knowledge of that other person in the interior of a bedroom, bathroom, changing room, fitting room, dressing room, or tanning booth, or the interior of any other area in which that other person has had a reasonable expectation of privacy. I should filibuster in Congress. That was a long sentence. But essentially, you can't use a camera in a bathroom. Who would have thought? Everyone would have thought. For Twitch's part, the video streaming platform explicitly includes recording someone against their will or with the intent to harm them as part of its anti-harassment policy, adding, violating our policy against harassment will result in your account being suspended. Depending on the severity of the offense, harassers may be identifiably suspended on the first violation. Indefinitely suspended. According to Kotaku, Bomb entered the men's room with tens of thousands of people watching his stream, then shouted the word bodyguard, while E3 attendees, including one that looked to be a child, used urinals in the background. He then went into a stall. The broadcaster's channel is currently unavailable. Again, horrible move here, but Dr. Disrespect is, of course, the facade, the mask that Bomb puts on, and at the same time, I understand the draw of trying to put on a show for people online, and also, I'm sure that everybody at E3 is kind of riffing on the personality of Dr. Disrespect, but to take it too far, to try and be funny in a bathroom, not a place to take a camera, especially not a live streaming camera with tens of thousands of viewers on the back end of that. Of course, his channel, not going anywhere. He'll be back within a couple of days, I guarantee it, at least probably by the end of E3. But, again, whenever you're live streaming, whether it be a small content creator or somebody who is one of the biggest on any kind of specific platform, be reasonable whenever you're actually creating content. That's the biggest takeaway from this. But now I've got some deals for you. Again, tons of free games. Let me let you tune in on that one again. Free games for you throughout the rest of 2019 via the Epic Games Store. Epic is extending its weekly free games promotion until the end of the year. Epic has announced that the Epic Games Store will be offering one free game each week for the rest of the year, and of course, they previously gave away a free game once every 2 weeks, but has since expanded it to one per week during its first summer sale. It appears that this has proven popular because it will now be a norm for the remainder of 2019. Epic announced this change alongside revealing some of the biggest games coming to the store this year, many of which were announced at E3. Games like Chivalry 2, Auto Chess, and Zombie Army 4 Dead War are all announced this week and are all Epic Store exclusives at launch. And of course, if you do want to check out the hottest free games, you should download the Epic Game Store Launcher, or the Epic Launcher, whatever it's actually called these days, and tune in, because every single week a free game, which I will of course tell you about as soon as we know, but tons of games coming out on the Epic Game Storefront, and again, much to the chagrin of a lot of PC gamers, because so many people just simply don't like the Epic Game Store. That's just what it comes down to. They don't like Epic Games. They see it representing a new wave of the industry, I would say, that is uncomfortable and unfamiliar. And it's something that I do understand. But again, to have good competition, specifically against Steam, I think is pushing every platform in the right direction. But if you do want to check out some of the biggest games coming out on the Epic Games Store, you can check out the full trailer, which shows off a good bit of what you can expect. But again, tons of games that are very, very interesting coming out very soon. Specifically this one, I like this tank thing. But let's end off on a funny note, shall we? Of course, Keanu Reeves made waves during E3, specifically during the Xbox press conference in which he came out and unveiled he was going to be in Cyberpunk 2077, reportedly kind of like Cortana in Halo, where he's always in your head talking, at least for a significant portion of the game, which, don't get me wrong, I'm perfectly fine with Keanu Reeves being my inner conscience kind of voice. But that's beside the point. Kids won't stop coming up to Keanu Reeves and calling him Fortnite guy. And that's the funniest headline of the week right there. Who is this man to you? A sexual deep... No, I'm just kidding. It is Keanu Reeves, a beloved A-list actor who is suddenly having a huge comeback in our pop culture, but he is also the guy who played Neo in the hugely influential Matrix movies. However, you might also know him as John Wick. But if you are a child, it is very likely you're going to tell. That's the guy from Fortnite, the Battle Royale game that came out in 2017. Up until very recently, Keanu Reeves wasn't actually in Fortnite. All the same, Keanu kept getting kids coming up to him, calling him Fortnite guy, according to a recent interview with Epic Games creative director Donald Mustard. Keanu, quote, was starting to have all these kids come up to him, all these teenagers on the street, and they weren't doing the normal, oh, you're Neo, oh, you're Wick. Mustard, who talks to Keanu, told host Jeff Keighley. Instead, they kept referring to him as Fortnite guy right to his face. Likely, the kids were referencing a suit-wearing character called the Reaper, who is colloquially referred to as John Wick by fans, which makes sense because one of John Wick's aliases is the Reaper. The Reaper has become a huge part of the game's culture, as Fortnite devotees will often wear the skin to communicate that they are a hardcore player, because again, this was one of the first special skins introduced to the game. And John Wick, of course, is played by Keanu Reeves. The funny thing is, according to Mustard, Keanu had no idea what Fortnite was when this first started happening, nor did he feel that the Reaper looked much like him at all. But the run-ins with the kids got frequent enough that Keanu and Epic Games decided to actually make an official John Wick skin happen so that people would stop confusing a John Wick knockoff for the actual thing, and this is apparently how the official skin came to Fortnite, because of an actual collaboration started by Keanu. What gets the author about this anecdote is that it's a perfect distillation of how much Fortnite has taken over the world. You have so many pieces of pop culture that encapsulate what Keanu Reeves has done in his life, but all of those are irrelevant because Fortnite has taken over. But I find that to be a hilarious note to end on this week. And of course, Keanu Reeves making an incredible comeback in 2019, as if the career ever dwindled to begin with. The man is a legend. The man is immortal because he doesn't age. It is amazing to see what he is capable of. But I'm excited about Cyberpunk 2077. I'm excited about John Wick Hex. I'm excited to see if he comes to Smash, because now he's in a mainline game. Just kidding, that's not happening. But that rounds out today's episode of Caffeinate. Of course, if you are brand new to the show, I do hope you enjoyed what I brought to the table today. And of course, the show is hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. If you do want to check out the hottest gaming news of the day, and subscribe on youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia to get that version of the show, or the last one, I promise. Podcast services around the world also host the show if you like the audio version. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. I will talk to you soon, and peace.